Friday crucifixion. Now, the third idea I want to share with you is the burden of sin, or Dagon. Remember, we spoke in the previous presentation, the great controversy, part 2. I shared with you Dagon, this high priest with his fish mitre, the fish scales, this high priest that was half fish, half man, right? The man with this fish on. Well, Sir Austin Henry Layard, he is an archaeologist, and he dug up many things, specifically at Nineveh and also in Babylon. He did some archaeological finds there. And I want to just make sure that we get the context before I go into the 3 days and 3 nights. The main god or deity of Nineveh at this time was Dagon. We've seen that, this fish god man, known as the fish god. Dagon was represented by a statue constructed as a half fish, half man. Everywhere Jonah would go in Nineveh, he would be standing under or close to one of these half fish, half man statues of Dagon. So, just like when you go into Rome and you've got all these pantheons of these different gods and whatever, so when Jonah would have walked into Nineveh, he would have been standing under or near one of the statues of this half fish, half man sun fish god called Dagon. There I showed you in the previous presentation the pagan high priest also sprinkling his holy water there, and there you can see on top his fish and the scales down the back and his fins down the back there. Now, that Dagon has certain characteristics. Listen to what Sir Austin Henry Layard says. In their veneration and worship of Dagon, listen now, the high priest of paganism would actually put on a garment that was created from a huge fish. The head of the fish formed a mitre, while its scaly fan-like tail fell as a cloak behind, leaving the human limbs and feet exposed. And that's what you see over there. You see the arms and the feet exposed, and the huge fish at the back over here, showing that he is the high priest of paganism. So you've got this guy standing with his various utensils and whatever, and he's wearing this fish, the open mouth, and the scales and the fins down his back. Listen now to the Wine of Babylon, page 9. The most prominent form of worship in Babylon, not only Nineveh, but Babylon, was dedicated to Dagon, later known as Ichthys, or the fish. In Chaldean times, the head of the church was the representative of Dagon. You see, look at this. The head of the church was representative of Dagon. So Dagon's high priest was the church high priest. The head of the church was the representative of Dagon. And he was considered, listen now, to be infallible. And he was addressed as Your Holiness. And the nation subdued by Babylon had to kiss the ring and the slipper of the Babylonian god king. Does this sound familiar? Let's read it again. The most prominent form of worship in Babylon was Dagon, known as the fish. In Chaldean times, the head of the church was the representative of Dagon, the sun god. He was considered infallible, he was called the holiness, and they had to kiss the ring. Does that somehow sound familiar? The head of a church that is considered infallible. He wears a fish mitre. He is called Your Holiness, and they have to kiss the ring. Does that sound familiar? Well, let's read on. The same powers and the same titles are claimed to this day by the Pope. Moreover, the vestments of paganism, the fish mitre, and the robes of the priests of Dagon are worn by the Catholic bishops, cardinals, and popes. So Mark Woodman says nothing. Mark Woodman reads. So besides just having an association to Dagon, the high priest of Dagon worship wore these things, and he was called infallible, Your Holiness, and they had to kiss the ring. He was called the Babylonian god king, the sun god king on earth. The sun god on earth, basically the same as the role of the pharaohs. The one with the snake in his forehead, the one with the Shiva dot on his forehead, the Babylonian sun king or god king, the one that's infallible, that everyone bows down to the authority of, that sits at Assisi, all in their hard little wooden chairs, and him on his big fancy white chair. These are the names not given by Mark Woodman, but by various authors that have studied these things in depth. Archaeologists around the world have recognized that exactly what you saw previously when you go to the Vatican, there, whether it's inside the Vatican, whether it's the cardinal kissing the ring of the Babylonian sun god with the Dagon high priest, or whether it's going to America and Nancy Pelosi kissing the ring of the sun king on earth, this high priest of Dagon. By the way, you can see George Bush and Condoleezza Rice and Tony Blair, they're all very, very angry. You can see they're very upset with the kissing of Nancy Pelosi kissing the sun god, the sun high priest ring, don't you think? Can you see how angry they are? No! This is absolute submission. Do you know who Nancy Pelosi is? She's the Speaker of the House of Representatives in America, one of the highest authorities under George Bush. Now, brothers and sisters, how does this work? Well, he's called infallible to this day. He wears the mitre, as you've seen, and everybody that is in submission to him kisses the ring. Also, if you look at the previous Pope, here you have Pope John Paul II with his fish mitre and the fins down the back, and here the new Pope. And there you see, this is on April 17th in Washington, actually receiving, this is in America, the Pope receiving his Dagon fish mitre on the back there. And there are the cardinals also with their little fish tails, the priests of Dagon with the high priest of Dagon. Now, what has this got to do with anything? And what has this got to do with Jesus Christ? Remember, the presentation we're discussing at the moment is called, "For unto us a child is born." And we are discussing inside that presentation 3 days and 3 nights. Remember, it said in Matthew 12 verse 40, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Now the word there, heart, is the word, and you can see it there, I've got the Greek there for you, cardia. You see it over there, that word there? I would like you to say it in your lounge or in your car. Say the word with me, cardia. Cardia. That word is the key word that I think we need to focus on most intensely, because today the debate is about Jesus being 3 days and 3 nights in the cardia of the earth, in the heart of the earth. And that is assumed by people that haven't done the study to be the grave. The heart of the earth being the grave, or the grave or the tomb that he was in. But that would not have been the word. They would have used the word Sheol or Hades if it was to be in the grave. So what is Jesus meaning here when he speaks of the word cardia? What does he mean? Have you heard of the cardiac arrest? Right? Cardiac arrest. Cardiac. It's got to do with a heart. A heart attack is cardia. Heart attack, cardiac arrest. Now, Jesus, just like Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights, almost having a heart attack inside the belly of the whale, so Jesus will be 3 days and 3 nights, almost having a heart attack under some or other situation. Right? They must look at the parallels and understand that the word cardia is the key. The question I want to ask you, though, is what is the heart of the earth? Is it a grave? Is it the Sheol or the Hades that other people like to make it is? Well, let's find out what Matthew 5:8 says. Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." We also find out where he says, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." He also said, Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul." Tell me, that heart, blessed are the pure in heart, let not your heart be troubled, or love the God with all your heart. Could any of those mean grave? Look at it again. Can you say, "Blessed are the pure in grave, for they shall see God"? Blessed are, let not your grave be troubled, or thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy grave. No. The word there, brothers and sisters, and let me bring it up for you there, is the Greek word cardia, which means core or heart. The heart, that is, and look at this, the thoughts and the feelings. In other words, the character. What's in your mind? The character of Jesus. What was Jesus' character? Pure or defiled? It was pure. Jesus did not have the thoughts and the feelings of the earth. The thoughts and the feelings of the earth, the character of the earth is sin and all the elements that have to go with that. Jesus did not experience that. He was able to resist the sin. So he literally had to gain or become part of the cardia, the thoughts and the feelings of the earth. Now, nowhere can you see that that refers to grave. You know that this idea of the cardia goes for both good and evil. Let's read it together from Luke 6. A good man, out of the good treasure of his heart, brings forth that which is good. So the cardia brings forth what is good. An evil man, out of the evil treasure of his cardia, brings forth that which is evil. So what's in your grave brings forth evil? No. This has got to do with what's in your heart brings forth evil, or what's in your heart brings forth good. So it's got to do with the thoughts and the feelings of mankind, the cardia of mankind. So let's go a little bit deeper. My question is, what is the heart of the earth? Paul wrote to Corinthians, and he said that the first man, that was Adam, is of the earth, earthy, and that word there in Greek is choikos, it means dirty. The second man, meaning Jesus, is the Lord from heaven. There's a type and an antitype. You've got Adam and you've got Jesus. Adam is the type. He was dirty and choikos. The antitype is from heaven. In other words, clean and not defiled. Now, read what it says in Isaiah 59 verse 2. But your iniquities, sins, have separated you from your God, and your sins have hidden his face from you, that he will not hear. Sin separates. Remember looking into the sanctuary when Adam and Eve sinned? The door closed between the most holy and the rest of the sanctuary, right? There was a process, the light of God was cut off, and all of a sudden Adam and Eve, they realized that they were naked. In the same way, the first Adam was choikos. He was dirty. He was cut off from the light of God. The second Adam was from heaven, meaning that he came and did not have any position until he was cut off. He didn't sin and he was not cut off from God. Now, like Isaiah says, your iniquities have separated you from God. There must have been a time when Jesus was separated from God. Is that possible? Well, what does he say? Let's just read this first. The first man, Adam, became separated from God as a result of sin. The second man, Jesus, had no sin and therefore was not separated from God until he became sin for us. Very important. He did not sin, but he became sin. So the first Adam was choikos. The second Adam was from heaven, but he became choikos. Right, now, listen carefully what it says in 2 Corinthians and in Matthew. For he, that's Jesus, has made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin. Jesus knew no sin, but he made him to be sin for us. And as a result, Jesus cried with a loud voice saying, my God, why hast thou separated thyself from me? Why hast thou forsaken me? Does it make sense? So Jesus never lost his connection back into the Most Holy until he became choikos. Now, the character, the heart of the earth is the thoughts and the feelings of the earth. When did Jesus become the character or experience the character, the cardia, the heart of the earth? When did he experience that? Did you notice? Let's read it together from Matthew 26 and verse 36 and verse 39. On Thursday evening came Jesus unto them, unto a place called Gethsemane. And he said unto the disciples, sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he went a little further and prayed on his face, and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. Here Jesus is having the Gethsemane experience. He's gone into the Garden of Gethsemane.